Remember when FishTubers started making videos about their worst days in fish keeping? Check it out as I rank the top 5 worst stories I found and what was the most common mistake that caused them. Hi, this is a gamer's wife, here with practical and proven tips to help busy aquarists like you. And I'm starting off the video with story number 5, the least damaging but potentially the most embarrassing. Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks actually told 4 stories in his video, linked in the description, but he started off with a really funny one. Apparently, he used to keep a betta tank next to his bed, and one time when he and his wife were having some fun, they accidentally knocked the poor betta off his stand. You'll have to visit his channel to hear the rest of the story, but lesson learned, don't put a fish tank in areas of high activity where they might potentially get bumped into. Number 4, the Great Escape Mistake by Simply Shrimp. If you didn't know already, crayfish are notorious escape artists, and Nathan found out firsthand when he heard a mysterious clink in the middle of the night. Now, if you own a pet that has a long history of getting out of its enclosure, maybe you should investigate that sound. I'm just saying. Anyways, you have to check out this video because Nathan does a hilarious reenactment of the whole thing. Lesson learned, seal all openings, especially those small ones where your heater cable or airline tubing comes out, and lock down that aquarium lid so that even an elephant couldn't get out. Number 3, the not your fault mistake comes from Heidi's fish tank. In fact, I'm thinking she's the one who started this whole video tag. Anyways, hers is the first saltwater example, and if you know anything about saltwater fish, they're expensive and fragile. Basically, this comes down to a case of having some young kids that decide to pour a whole can of fish food into the aquarium. And if that wasn't bad enough, then they decide to add some bubble solution for good measure. Yeah, instant death for sure. Moral of the story, don't ever ask your kids to help with your aquarium. Just kidding. No, according to Heidi, her lesson learned is never give up. A few months later, she's got some new fish in quarantine and is working on upgrading a 125-gallon reef tank. Number 2, the perfect storm of mistakes, comes from Bentley Pasco. Basically, he had a tank set up to try and breed some zebra plecos, which are super rare and insanely expensive, at least by freshwater standards. In order to condition them and encourage egg laying, he started overfeeding them a little. But then he started getting a little busy at work, so he wasn't keeping on top of his water changes. And then the final nail in the coffin is that he had recently moved some of his fast-growing nitrate-eating plants out of the tank. Bottom line, the tank ended up getting a nitrate spike that killed the zebra plecos. Lesson learned, sometimes catastrophe can occur from multiple small mistakes piling up. Have patience with the hobby and don't get lax with the basics of fish keeping. And number 1, our most expensive mistake as reported by 915 Mang. And yes, it's a saltwater reef tank, a 400-gallon one at that. Basically, the silicone seams just blew out and the whole front panel of the aquarium exploded out into their living room sofa and carpet. This did not actually happen to Mike, but rather a friend of his who was in the military and unfortunately out in the field when this happened. Thankfully, Mike and his friends were able to come and clean up this very, very expensive mess for the poor wife. And in the end, they were able to save some of the fish and corals that are now living in a 300-gallon tank. According to Mike, the lesson learned is don't buy used tanks, especially for big ones. I know that Aquarium Co-op had a similar disaster and highly recommends going with acrylic for large aquariums, since their seams are chemically bonded and much stronger. So after watching all of these worst day in fish keeping videos, what is the number 1 most common disaster that occurred? Survey says... I think it's telling that the top 2 disasters were caused by flooding and miscellaneous. Flooding because water damage is just so incredibly painful, whether caused by tank damage, overfilling during water changes, or equipment malfunction. Miscellaneous is so interesting because it's so indicative of all the hundreds of ways things could go wrong in this hobby. Seriously, there's just no way to prepare for every situation. Like Zenzo and Heidi said, you just have to learn from your mistakes and rise up to fight again another day. So tell me, what was your worst day in fish keeping? Comment below because I'd love to hear it, and let me know if you want to hear my own story as well. Take time to enjoy your aquariums, and I'll see you in the next video.